J. Cole failed JID the way Jay-Z did him by Rapaholics. This should be a good one. 42 minutes. I'm going yap. Expect a motion picture, boy. If you not ready for no motion picture, go ahead and click off, playboy. Alright?
So Grams, today we are reporting live from the depths of hell with angel wings that have yet to flail, and fans argue about record sales like the record execs themselves.
Oh, he barred out in the beginning. Wait, hold on. I ain't know. Nobody told him he was coming like this. I know he was coming like this, my boy.
Lobbies and Gentlegrams, today we are reporting live from the depths of hell with angel wings that have yet to flail, and fans argue about record sales like the record execs themselves. It's like we're all under a spell, and I hope this message reaches you well, because this is how JID opens up his most recent album, God Does Like Ugly.
Oh, this from the JID album. I haven't heard it yet. It explains that I have not heard it yet. And I will after this video. I plan to after I did my reactions. I thought this is how you was coming, Rapaholics. I thought you was just on that. You feel me? But
this is the first album JID has released in over 3 years. Unless it was for creative purposes, JID is far too pristine of a rapper to be taking 3-year hiatuses at
that last album was fire though.
This vital of a time in his career. And judging by how he starts off this album, he is frustrated with fan fiction following frivolous facts like how much your album sells or how many hits do you have. That doesn't sound like a man who has been carefully concocting this project for the last 3 years. It sounds more like an individual who is fed up and frustrated with industry politics, profit-obsessed corporations, fans targeting him with unrealistic expectations. When the pressure's so high, it's hard to deliver when everyone wants something different. And it begs the question, what does JID want out of his career? With a hip-hop landscape that has been starving for new superstars and artists to lead the next generation, JID's ability to both draw in viral social media hits and be incredible at not just piecing words together, but piecing thoughts together for entire projects, it's no doubt that he has been the runner-up to lead the big three or the big whatever of his generation. He's got a project done with one of the biggest artists of the last generation, J. Cole, and an album fully produced by the biggest beatmaker of this generation, Metro Boomin. But neither of them have dropped, and it's been 3 years since we saw the last JID album, while the entire time fans are screaming that he's next up to lead this generation. So what's he waiting on? What stars have needed to align? What exactly happened? Well, I think the trajectory of JID's career is a direct reflection of his relationship with Dreamville. And this
JID comment has nothing to do with music. It's very non-related. I ain't know one JID was 5'5", and I didn't know he was an All-American at football. I didn't know that either, or I just found that out.
Strategies they've taken to not just develop JID as an artist, but really all their artists. Of course, Dreamville is a label founded by J. Cole. And this is not to say in any way that JID and J. Cole hate each other. In fact, JID was just on the Joe Budden podcast talking about how him and J. Cole have an entire unreleased album together. I don't know from what era, and I don't know why it hasn't been released, but it exists.
Me and Cole got a body of a 15-track smoker. Me and him, back and forth. I ain't never told nobody this. Sorry, Cole. The fall-off's gonna be really good. Y'all gonna see.
In fact, J. Cole might have failed JID in...
How the fuck did they manage to hold that in? Maybe like JID was just waiting on for the fall-off to, you know... And also, like, Cole was kind of a little bit preoccupied being in the middle of, you know, Dot and Drake. I could assume that kind of pushed the timeline back just a tiny bit in terms of any releases that would involve Cole. But in terms of JID, on the other hand, I guess we're going to learn to see what he theorizes why it took so long for JID to release an album 3 years later.
Certain aspects of his career, but one huge thing that he did was when he sold Dreamville, he gave all the ownership back to the artists on the label.
Dreamville sold Dreamville, and Cole looked out for everybody that was a part of Dreamville.
I heard Boss talking about that.
That's one of the most beautiful things in hip-hop right there. That never happened.
And Cole has always been well-intentioned, right? We know that. The first rapper to delete a diss record. We're going to talk about that later in this video. He's a polite guy, but I think history repeats itself, and this is a prime case of that. Because the same way that I believe J. Cole and Dreamville have failed JID is the same way that Jay-Z almost failed J. Cole. And again, this is not to say that any of them have beef with one another, but it's to say that throughout the history of both JID and J. Cole's careers, there was obvious patterns of neglect.
There might be patterns, but it was not quite what Jigga. Jigga damn near stripped his confidence. I only see Cole uplifting JID, but I'll let him explain what parallels and whatnot. I don't think he got in his way. I think he gave him a lot of hot features upon giving him the platform. But also, Dreamville has a very interesting model. And it's one that is unlike many labels, right? So already, when it's a superstar artist ran label, throughout history, if we look at hip hop, those have been the hardest to establish long-term success. Obviously, what comes to mind is the biggest ever to do that is probably Young Money, with Wayne really relinquishing the spot to Drake and Nicki. And that really took place mostly when Wayne went to jail, and Drake, Nicki, and I'll even throw Tyga in there, but I know when I start talking about Tyga, people turn off. Mainly Drake and Nicki held it down, but I think that operation was successful, and not many operations that are artist ran labels are that successful. And I think that even with a superstar like J. Cole running the operations, he has had a team to get these artists on Dreamville favorable deals, artist friendly deals, so where they can at the very least put some serious bread in their pocket, as JID alluded to, and then Boss also said that he broke bread with the bros. So even though Ari Lennox may have a different vision for her career that Dreamville didn't necessarily align with, I know Ari Lennox wanted to do certain things with her career that Dreamville was just like, that's just not what we do. So there's going to be creative differences. But I really think that like Dreamville still put money in Ari Lennox's pockets. I think Dreamville has changed all of their lives for the better.
By the rapper-owned record labels that signed both J. Cole and JID. Just like JID taking the bold risk of signing to another major rapper's record label, J. Cole, of course, did the same thing. J. Cole was the first rapper signed to Jay-Z's Rock Nation in 2009. He had tried to get his mixtape into Jay-Z's hands for many years, and I believe it was after Jay-Z discovered Cole's mixtape The Warm Up and the song Lights Please that Jay-Z wanted to sign him. They met in New York. That's where Cole pitched Jay-Z his music, and the rest is history. Cole spoke on it saying, I played him the song Lights Please, and he was like, that's the one. I didn't sign instantly, but we kept talking, and he saw my hunger. Signing to Rock Nation felt like a chance to prove myself on the biggest stage. And Cole definitely did have a lot to prove. These are huge shoes to fill. Think about it in multiple facets, right? Number one, he's the first rapper signed to the biggest rapper's record label, Rock Nation. Think about the other rappers that Jay-Z has ushered in the game. Kanye West, Beanie Siegel, etc. Will J. Cole go on to produce even a fraction of the careers that other Jay-Z artists have? And bigger than that, will he always be...
I give Dame Dash the credit for Ye. I know that may be unpopular. Jay-Z did not want to sign Kanye. He just wanted him as a producer. If it was up to Jay, Ye, the artist that we know of Kanye would have never came to fruition. It was more so Dame Dash, but Beanie Siegel, definitely, because he freestyled for Beanie Siegel. I mean, Beanie Siegel freestyled for Jay-Z. Jay-Z put him on a Hard Knock Life tour with no album out. Just that. Yes, I agree with that. Any other rappers? None come to mind. I'm sure he's had a hand in it. I know Wale was not on the Rock Nation label. He was just managed by Rock Nation. So I don't know if you want to give credit, but in terms of just signing a rapper, yeah, probably Cole. Yeah, that's probably about it.
Stuck behind Jay-Z's shadow like certain Rockefeller artists were.
And then Memphis Bleak kind of admitted that was his own fault and laziness, and that was not Jay-Z's fault. It was more so Memphis Bleak.
But before Cole was even able to ask himself these questions and put this type of pressure on him, he first had to start at step one, release a debut album to prove to the record label that you're profitable enough to continue investing in. And Cole struggled at the beginning, and it was a direct struggle related to the pressure that Jay-Z and the label had put on him. So just to pause here, when I say that J. Cole failed JID the way Jay-Z failed J. Cole, it obviously wasn't Cole's intention to.
And it's also different. I'll let him talk. I won't pause for like a minute like after this. He said this on his podcast that he dropped Inevitable, the last winter when Cole dropped the podcast series, that the gauntlet that Jay and Rock Nation put J. Cole through could have broken him, but the fact that it didn't, it made him into a monster. He said it self-admittedly, and it really put pressure on him and made a diamond. And he vowed to never do his artist the way Jay-Z did him. So there's differences in the way that he was treated versus what he does as artist. But if I follow his drift, still that in trying to protect your artists, you can still damage them still in a way. You have great intentions, which I think Cole does for his artists. It could still hinder his artists. And he admitted to some of that in that podcast as well.
Failed JID. And obviously JID still has an amazing career. But it seems like both J. Cole as a record executive and JID as the artist he is have missed the ball on some major opportunities. And this is all the direct pitfall of being an artist signed to another artist. So like I said, when J. Cole initially signed to Jay-Z, he struggled to catch enough of a buzz to be able to put out his debut album, Cole World. He wanted his first album to be an absolute undisputed classic, a College Dropout, an Illmatic, a Reasonable Doubt. Now the problem was, if you guys don't remember, J. Cole had 3 mixtapes that he put out before getting signed to Rockefeller. The Warm Up, The Come Up, Friday Night Lights.
The Rock Nation, but I get him.
These mixtapes were a direct reflection of Cole's entire life, right? Every story he had up to that point, being around 22 or so, was all documented in the music.
I don't mean to really stroke him on that. I'm not really trying to, but like Rockefeller is not Rockefeller if Biggs and Dame Dash are not involved. It's not Rockefeller. It's just Rock Nation. But yeah, like I said, I get him.
Had a lifetime to cook up those 3 tapes and put some of his best projects on those tapes. Now he's got what? A 6-month window to produce his first album on a brand new record label started by the biggest and best rapper in the world. And this is back in the day when you couldn't just get an internet buzz, right? Or at least that wasn't enough to carry you. Like J. Cole got the internet buzz by putting his best tracks on those 3 mixtapes, but now you needed something to stick.
I disagree. Cole came in at the precipice of the early blog era wave. In fact, his buzz through the blog era internet circles sustained him until he could put out his first album. Rock Nation was surprised at the interest level of Cole, and it was getting back to Rock Nation that the buzz that he built through the internet and through the Dollar and the Dream series, tour series, concert series, and just his fan first vulnerability approach was what sustained him. And he had to put out Friday Night Lights as a measure of to just survive. That was the album, and a lot of records that he was saving ended up on Friday Night Lights. Lights Please appeared on Sideline Story. But Drake was hot through the internet. Wiz Khalifa was hot through the internet. Kid Cudi got hot through the internet. All these artists, Sean got hot through the internet. Wale did both. Wale did, and Cole did. He did his groundwork around New York, and also like going down to different colleges and universities for like spring break and homecoming. But a bulk of that came from the internet. A lot of those 07, 08, 09, Nip got hot on the internet. A lot of them, Dom Kennedy got hot on the internet, and also in LA too. I mean to say that the internet had a strong role, but it wasn't the only role in their success. But I think that a lot of them did get hot on the internet. I would say 02, 03 when Ye got hot, it was straight street team, foot on a pavement, like up here at the radio stations, that this and that type shit. Yeah.
on radio. That's how you caught the attention of mainstream America in 2010. Remember the last major hip-hop act that Jay-Z broke out before J. Cole? It was Kanye. Kanye's massive success wasn't a direct product of internet blogs or online mixtapes. It was hard work at the record label to push singles to get them on radio and then have a continuous flow of single after single for each project. This is how artists broke into the mainstream in 2010. Nowadays, you could just post your song on SoundCloud, it goes viral on TikTok or whatever, and you're good to go. But being signed to another artist who came up in a different era, Jay-Z didn't necessarily understand the power of the internet maybe the same way Cole did. There's a reason why Cole put his best songs on his online mixtapes, because he knew the power of your music spreading online and cultivating a real fan base on the internet. But it didn't matter what Cole wanted. It didn't matter the artistic direction he wanted to go. He needed a hit. If he wanted to put his album out, he needed something on the radio to be circulating so that Jay-Z and the Roc Nation team felt comfortable actually distributing his album out in stores and making that investment.
I follow him now. What you're saying is the internet wasn't enough, but I still think it sustained him. You're just talking about in terms of putting that album out, he still need a radio single. Okay, I follow you. All right, I get you now.
So Cole worked effortlessly for about 6 months, watching a bunch of his peers like Big Sean, Wiz Khalifa, Drake, Wale, all catch their own set of hits that would reach radio. Meanwhile, Cole is out here struggling. He's got the skill to produce amazing records, but not necessarily the knack for hearing a hit. And Jay-Z, again, taking on that executive role, but being an artist himself from a different era, is a little bit detached at this point.
Which isn't fair. I think Jay was kind of playing industry games with Cole, because he took Higher from Friday Night Lights to Jay. Jay said it wasn't ready yet. That wasn't a single. I think Higher has a strong melody. He took Can't Get Enough and said wasn't quite a hit. I think Can't Get Enough is a strong first single. Strong. Beats hard, hook is hard. And they didn't even like Workout. Jay hated Workout. So in my opinion, the records Cole played before Workout were stronger than Workout. Who Dat wasn't the single. Who Dat wasn't. It was his first, attempt at it, but the radio pulled him to the side and was like, I'm going to tell you why this is not a radio record, because I like you. And, Cole was doing his radio runs and, getting familiar with the DJs and whatnot, and they were telling him, this is where we're slotted, and he really gave him the radio game. And then after that, he was able to take that intel and kind of, workshop it. But I just think that what Jay had an opinion for Cole was never gonna fit Cole. Producers he was recommending, there was Swedish pop producers, Stargate, and all them different guys, wasn't gonna work for Cole. And he was telling Cole, you're not gonna be able to get a hit producing your own records. And then Cole went on to produce the majority of his records throughout his entire career. So it's just safe to say that Jay was wrong.
So he starts throwing J. Cole into the studio with pop producers who specifically design these mainstream rap songs that you guys probably remember if you were around in the 2010s that just sound so cheesy and tacky, like they're just meant to be abused on radio or in commercials. Think about No Sleep by Wiz Khalifa or Fly Like a G6. And then think about J. Cole in the studio with those guys. It doesn't really work, right? And this is the vision that Jay-Z had, because in reality, he had no real vision. There's a disconnect there. Yes, Jay-Z can spot the raw talent of a J. Cole, but being a generation removed, he was kind of out of touch in terms of the type of sound an artist like that should go for, the type of marketing tactics and distribution that you should go for, the power of the internet in this era versus radio. Drake understood this. That's why he stretched out the promotion specifically of his So Far Gone mixtape and funneled that hype into his debut album. Plus, he sang and rapped. It was easier for him to generate the hits rather than it was for Cole. It was only when Cole set zero limitations on himself and started creating from a more stress-free, isolated environment where he got the inspiration to sample a song off of College Dropout by Kanye West and turn that into his first hit song, Workout, which Jay-Z initially did not like and wanted Cole to instead release some club-inspired, auto-tune-drenched attempt at a hit that would have been maybe perfect for the radio, but
would have killed his career. It would have flatlined that bitch.
Awful for where Cole wanted to go creatively.
He played the record, and I was like, I'm so happy he didn't put that record out. I'm so happy. There was a couple records from those sessions. Like he did a record with Pharrell that I wish would have came out, and there was some other joints that like he just never finished that like weren't bad. It's just that he just wasn't inspired to complete them.
He ended up eventually giving Cole the creative freedom that he wanted and that he needed to excel the way he did. But it came with tons of ups and downs at the beginning.
And it came with a conversation which is like, he pulled him to the side, and it was after he damn near embarrassed Cole in front of Drake and was just like, yo, just give him a hit. And he was just like, he kind of like barked on Cole. Like, it was like, would you want people to do your career how you doing? Like, then why the f you doing me like that? And then he was like, you right. And then he just backed off.
They were at one party where Drake came by and Jay-Z looked at Drake and said, yo, can you just give my boy a hit? Basically in Cole's face, talking to his biggest competitor at the time, saying, I know you're much better at the very thing that I need my artist to do right now, aka making hits. So please, I beg of you, give him one.
I've never seen this video before. I'm just really knowledgeable of the timeline. Some people are like, if you're so knowledgeable, why didn't you just do your own video? And I don't know going in what they're going to say in the video. I'm just like familiar with the story. I'm like, oh, okay, I can chime in here. And it just gives my perspective on like how I perceived it as a diehard Cole fan from 09 on. Like I was a diehard fan. So I followed everything Cole and I was interested in everything Cole. I was there for the come up, like literally. I mean, 07 is like technically the come up, but like you get what I'm saying.
Gotta crush your confidence as a brand new artist coming into the game, and a couple months later at a different party, J. Cole was eventually fed up and said, look, like, when you made Reasonable Doubt, were you tied to these creative constraints where you needed a radio hit? Were you chasing a certain sound to fit whatever was in the mainstream at the time, or did you just do what felt natural to you? And obviously, that album was initially released when I believe Rockefeller was still an independent label. So there wasn't that type of major label pressure to, you know, perform to a certain standard, right? And it's always when artists are held to that certain standard that they typically end up fumbling under the pressure or just not meeting a certain unrealistic expectations that fans end up setting. But it's even harder when you're casted under the shadow of an artist who's much bigger to you. And that is the pitfall of signing to another artist. Also, whether it's in an attempt to not be in that bigger artist's shadow that you're signed to, or whether it's just, you know, creative or personal disputes over the release of your music, it's hard to usually maintain the same level of camaraderie and collaboration and the same relationship that you have with the bigger artist that you're signed to as your career progresses. There's usually money differences, creative differences, whatever the case is. Look at Rick Ross's Maybach music label. That completely disbanded and he had issues with Meek Mill over finances at one point. Look at Kanye West's Good Music. I don't think he has a relationship with any of the artists who were signed to that label.
I just had this conversation with my friends the other day, and I want to ask you this question. Do you feel like Kanye did more harm to the artists on Good Music than no pun intended, than good? Like, I know they were able to, it worked for the time being, but after they departed, I just felt like he did more harm to their career than good. You know, Tiana Taylor, Common, Consequence. I mean, 2 Chainz was 2 Chainz, but like, I even think he negatively affected Sean's whole trajectory. I think Sean going into Good Music when he first signed, he completely changed. So him being left out to dry and frozen out the operation, and him recording Finally Famous 3 and You Know Big Sean, he's a completely different rapper than when he released like My Last and Finally Famous. I just think that he wasn't given the shot. I think he felt like he had it when he got the shot. I think Sean felt like he had to change himself a bit, and he started chasing trends instead of creating them. I just felt like he was completely free during his mixtape series. You know, Sci-Hi never really got he just kind of just became just the ghostwriter when he didn't start off like that. Like, he started off like, I think he really could have been one of the best Atlanta rappers ever. I mean, he is, but like, just people that just know him. I mean, if you're a rap fan, you know Sci-Hi. But my point is that I just feel like he just used him for his own self-serving interest. And I think that, you know, we can look back in retrospect and just be like, yo, look what all these other people were doing. They were doing what Jay should have done. And I'm like, you know, hindsight is 2020, but I'm just looking at Cole's situation, and maybe it was for his own benefit in the long run that he was kind of the scapegoat because he was the only rapper on Roc Nation. So he had to figure it out for himself. You know, he learned not to trust Jay-Z's word, and like not trusting Jay-Z's word allow him to carve out a lane and find himself. I don't think Kanye really allows for his artists, or maybe that operation did not allow for their artists to just be like, I don't care what you have to say. Even like Designer, like all of them just did worse after a while. I don't think you can tell Kanye, I don't care about your opinion. I think you're getting dropped. I think so. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment box.
Kanye and Jay-Z. All right, maybe the problem is just Kanye, but it was
I think so.
weird throughout the 2010s, right? I mean, not only did all the things that I just described go down between Jay-Z and J. Cole, but after he finally got that hit and was able to release his debut album, we never really saw Jay-Z co-sign or work with Cole in the capacity that he did with a Kanye West, or the way that Ross did with Meek Mill, or Wayne did with Drake and Nicki. They've got, what, one collaboration together? And I don't think
Cole said that was Cole's decision to do that.
that was in any way Cole trying to avoid being in Jay-Z's shadow, right? If anything, it would have helped J. Cole's career by having more Jay-Z collabs. I mean, look how many times Jay-Z collabed with Kanye West, and Kanye West came up right under Jay-Z.
It led to resentment, though. Like, Big Brother was like, I'm living in your shadow. And that was on Graduation, like one of his biggest albums. Like, he still felt like he was in his shadow. And then they fell out like 2 years later. No, well, not 2 years later, because that was 2007. They did Watch the Throne in 2011. I still think from 2007 to 2011 it was a rocky relationship. Like, they didn't really have the best of relationships. So I think I disagree with that point. I think that Cole keeping his distance was for the benefit of his long-term career, but not a bad point. I have no problem with the way you're constructing this video. I'm just like, I'm just really feeding off it, to be honest with you.
Both Jay-Z and Kanye had varying sounds, right? The same way J. Cole had a different sound to Jay-Z. Maybe it was things going sour over disagreements in the beginning of J. Cole's career. I mean, again, he had to fight Jay-Z for creative freedom and constantly comparing himself to not just Jay-Z's legacy, but also wanting the debut on the level of a College Dropout or Nas's Illmatic. And then he's looking at Kendrick, who's getting all of the cultural praise, and Drake, who's getting all the commercial success, and he's kind of like that middle child, right? It was only once he fully deaded the idea of having a lead single, of subjecting himself to radio-sounding music in any capacity on Forest Hills Drive, where he actually saw the success and made the type of project that he wanted to make all along.
I wish I made the connection in the time he released Middle Child. I just thought it was a hard record that he was saying that this is my placement in hip-hop, in between Sandwich, in between Drake and Dot. It didn't click with me until he made a freestyle over the beat from Drake's it was a Drake album. I was on her ass like bag pockets. And you still that record. I don't know if it's the record, it's the album with all them sorry ass album cover that Drake had with all them pregnant ladies. That one. That, you know what I mean. It's like Heaven's Something is the record I'm talking about that Cole released a freestyle on.
And this was the first time that J. Cole really just had full creative ownership of his work, right? And this is when we really saw his legacy being detached from Jay-Z. And this is the moment where Cole really started to strive on levels that we hadn't seen earlier in his career. It's possible that JID needs the exact same thing, that creative control. But speaking of creative control, J. Cole actually founded Dreamville Records in 2007 when he was working on his debut mixtape, and he created the label specifically to maintain creative control over his music and eventually support other artists.
How the you miss a dunk like that up close, live, and you 6'4"?
First, he signed a longtime friend of his, Omen. Then he signed Boz, who he met in 2010 in Queens. But initially, the record label was just formed as a way to protect Cole's autonomy over his own artistic direction, production, and release decisions without interference from major labels. And the starting of this record label allowed him to control the vision of initially releasing a lot of these online mixtapes before building up the buzz to drop the debut, right? Cole said, Dreamville was created out of necessity. I wanted to control my own destiny, my own creative output, and give a home to artists who felt the same. I started Dreamville because I didn't want to be at the mercy of a label telling me what to do with my music or how to move. It was about freedom and building something real for me and my team. Unfortunately, though, it was once he signed to another artist that creative freedom was now stripped from him. And I think it was a direct cause of one bigger artist being from the generation prior and being detached to, again, the sound of today, the way you promote your music today, the power of different tools like the internet today, and subjecting Cole to outdated tactics like rushing the track list of his debut album to get it out at a certain time, or making music with the sole purpose of trying to land on radio. That's why his debut album didn't hit the way Forest Hills Drive was when he got back that creative control. And I say all that to say, this is possibly what JID was dealing with in the interim of his last album in 2022 to 3 years later in 2025 when we get his brand new project. Now, J. Cole discovered JID in 2014. Similar to Jay-Z finding J. Cole discovered JID through his online mixtape 31 Cinderella, and being impressed by how strong of a lyricist JID was, Cole ended up meeting him in Atlanta and signing him to Dreamville by 2017. JID would build a small buzz, dropping his debut album in 2019, and around that same time, the label became very dominant within hip-hop with a lot of promising potential, and that was thanks to the moves Cole made to really put these artists first, in the sense that he was platforming them on a higher level than he was platforming himself at one point. That point was around 2019 when Cole went on a historic feature run while also building up his Dreamville Collective to be the biggest hip-hop label with the most potential in the game at one point. And this was all due to the reason
This nigga was dead nice in football. Holy.
that Cole, stepping back and looking at his career, didn't want to say that he left the game without having the opportunity to have a run that was really focused and centered on collaboration and teaming up with new artists and giving other artists a platform. And for that reason, he ended up booking like a recording compound where a bunch of different artists and producers stayed at for several days, weeks, I don't know how long. And that's when they ended up cooking up the third Dreamville Collective album, Revenge of the Dreamers 3.
I'm reaching a point in my career over this past year, I'm like, bro, I don't want to look back 20 years from now and be like, yo, I never worked with nobody, I never had no fun, boom, boom. So I had this idea, let's go somewhere, lock in, and invite a bunch of outside producers or artists.
This project was a massive look for JID. It ended up being the album that had the highest first week sales that he was a part of in his entire career. And J. Cole really took a backseat on this project, letting the other artists on the label shine and kind of bring their vision to light. And at one point in the process, J. Cole talked about having this writer's block because he struggled between separating himself as the executive versus the artist. He wasn't in artist mode, he was more in executive mode.
I hear a beat I like, and I'm like, damn, I can't write nothing. And I realize it's because I was wearing two hats at the same time. Like, I'm in here on day one as an executive, like, okay, is everybody good? And when I would get a beat, I sit down to write and be like, I'm mad, I'm inspired.
And I think that's the problem that a lot of rapper executives end up having, right? It's very hard to separate your own music career when you're trying to also develop an artist under you. And that's for many different reasons. Number one,
That's when they end up delegating a team that will see, like, this is the connection from, this is like, we see it how Cole sees it. So I don't have the time to focus on this entirely. And that goes with the Dreamville Fest. Like, all of it is all encompassing. I have to focus on my career. So here's the team that I built and oversee, and overall I do okay the final word on what comes out, what doesn't. I assume is how that goes, because there's not enough time in the day to do all that, and he has a family. He's like, not enough time. Like, it's not enough time.
usually the artist under you comes from a different generation. So you're probably not as in touch with what the younger fans want, that they resonate with, and that could lead to you kind of misguiding them, right? The same way Jay-Z did to J. Cole at the beginning of his career. Or in the case of a Lil Wayne or even a Rick Ross, right? Your artist can oftentimes end up overshadowing you, and there's this big battle between letting it happen versus, you know, giving into your ego to where this power struggle comes out. And there's a lot of insecurities and emotions wrapped up into this, right? Because as a rapper signing another rapper, you kind of have this weird balance of wanting the rapper to go on to do great things, but also not wanting to get outshined, which makes it hard when you're coming in thinking, okay, how can I push these artists to be the best that they could be, but how can I also push myself to the highest of my creative abilities? It's two different ways of thinking, and that's what kind of confused J. Cole at this particular period of time. So as far as JID goes, J. Cole spoke on him saying the first thing is how gifted he was with putting his words together. The thing that solidified it was when I saw his work ethic and his hunger. A lot of people want it, but they're not willing
What the fuck was Cole doing in that video?
to put in the work. He's not one
That nigga spinning like the Joker.
of those people. His potential is GOAT status. This is what J. Cole said in 2018. We're now 7 years removed from that quote. Years later, we would see J. Cole struggling between balancing being an executive and being an artist, and we'd see JID take these long hiatuses. So what exactly happened? Did industry politics play a part in it? Well, it's kind of hard to say, because when JID speaks on meeting J. Cole, he says it was very organic. It wasn't no industry stuff. It was really like, I F with your art type stuff. One night, Cole came to one of my shows in New York. I was cool with a guy associated with Dreamville. I would send him music after we got off tour, but I didn't know he was playing that music for Cole. But he was the whole time. Cole had a concert in Atlanta, and he came to my crib. And ever since then, it was just history. So the signing seemed natural, right? Cole heard his music and saw potential, GOAT status potential, and wanted to give him a shot. And again, JID never had direct bad things to say about J. Cole. He also mentioned, when I first met J. Cole, he never flexed, he only gave me respect. I respect and love him as a person. Outside of music, he's a good guy, and I try to surround myself with people like that. In another interview, he said, what made me feel good about my label situation was just the sincerity of the people we
I
lead.
only hear great things about what Cole did for JID in the label. And Surround Sound was a big record for JID, like big record. It helped him maintain his integrity. It wasn't even like this is not like, I still heard JID, like it didn't compromise anything that JID brought. That's a good ass radio record for him, and it did his thing on TikTok. I only hear positive things so far.
Up with. But this was in 2018. It still leaves us with the unanswered question of what the hell happened between 2019, JID's first album, and 2025, when we've only gotten 2 other projects in a 6-year window. They're phenomenal projects. We're going to touch slightly on this new album, and maybe I'll do a full review if you guys want that. Drop a comment. But 2 albums in 6 years, that's not necessarily enough to be in the conversation of GOAT status, like J. Cole wanted, right? Well, we got some interesting comments and interviews in those past 6 years. One of them being when JID was asked who's in his top 5 of all time, and you can tell he really pauses to make sure his answer is perfect, right? Like he selects the most perfect artist, and he ends up going far beyond just a list of 5. But one individual who does not make that list is J. Cole, and this is years after he's already signed to Cole.
So Jay-Z, Wayne, Outkast is 1.
So far, you're 3 for 3.
Earl Sweatshirt.
Earl Sweatshirt.
It's kind of crazy, right?
You gotta feel that.
Thinking like a lot of names.
What are some names going through your head?
Like Thug, like
Thug, okay.
K-Dot, of course.
K-Dot, yeah.
JID don't sound like Cole though, so this is his personal favorite list. It doesn't mean it doesn't hold Cole in high regard. And I think he's mentioned before that I really looked up to Cole in his run, but he sounds like Dot. Like he gets a lot. JID has always gotten Dot comparisons. Him and Saba, I feel like get like Dot comparisons often. Saba's just a monster, right? But he sounds like an Atlanta version of K-Dot to me. You may have a different opinion, but this is his personal list. This is not like, and I keep saying music is subjective, rap is subjective. It's just so competitive amongst the fan bases and amongst the actual artists that we're constantly at war about each other's top 10 and top 5 and ranking lists. It's like, who the cares? I guess it's like that. I think that matters a lot more oftentimes than the actual music. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to measure what impact that music had on you. Only you can measure like how that made you feel and how you connect with that. You can only share it in so many words, and they still will never fully grasp the true connection. That's what music is. It's a connection, your own personal connection with that rapper and the rapper's music. To rank it and to talk about it amongst other people, they're never going to see it how you see it. It was your own personal connection. And small times, you'll end up, you can find community within a certain artist in that fan base that will relate to you in that personal connection. And then you find a home over here. And then I think that's what the rise of stan communities are. It's like we argue as a group because y'all really friends and bonded through this artist's music. But like trying to convince other people as to why this person's not in my top 10 or I don't see the value, it's just like you're never gonna find that one answer that everybody agrees on or satisfies everybody's opinions and taste level. That's just it's not possible, bro.
You know, it's different vibes.
And this isn't necessarily to, again, imply that they have any beef of any kind. I just think it's very interesting in the sense that when an artist signs to another artist, if both of them are not on the same wavelength, they're not making similar music, they're not headed kind of in a similar direction, have a similar vision for where they want their careers to go, it usually doesn't end up working out. And I'm not saying they have to sound the same, right? JID and J. Cole don't have to sound the same, but look at like a Drake and a Wayne, right? Both those guys came in the game, similar blueprint of doing an abundance of features, killing hooks, becoming hit-making machines, always bigging each other up, talking about Wayne's the best rapper alive, then Wayne would say, nah, Drake is the best rapper alive. Or even look as recently as rapper-owned labels like Travis Scott's Cactus Jack. He signed a bunch of different artists, but the only one who really worked out...
Them niggas is all bums. I don't know if Don Toliver is on Cactus Jack, but them niggas all amounted to dog shit, if we being honest. No disrespect. Like, if y'all see this, whatever, if you run up on me at any festival, if y'all see me in the city and you lay a finger on me, I will sue you. Like, I'm not gangster, I'm not street, I am a civilian. I will put hands. And if I can defend myself, we can run the ones. But more than likely, I'm suing your ass. So like, if you take it to that level because you mad in my opinion, I think really signing to Travis Scott did more harm than good for y'all, especially Sofago. Like, that motherfucker is fire. And I think the lack of success in his career is due to being on that label.
Was Don Toliver, who took tons of inspiration from Travis, who follows his blueprint creatively. Travis really ushered Don into the game, whereas artists like Sheck West or Sofago, these were kind of artists Travis just found. They don't necessarily have as much in common artistically, and the push from Cactus Jack never really helped these artists get to that next level. Same thing with Young Thug. Young Thug signed and came up with artists like Gunna. Gunna obviously took immense influence from him and respects him and would probably say Young Thug is in his top 5, right? And I think that's why his career was able to succeed. And I think that's the case for all these guys who sign under other rappers, right? It's that not only are they allowed to kind of execute on their own creative vision and have that creative freedom, but the artist they're signed to is kind of on the same wavelength, kind of has the same approach.
I do like this point of his. I do agree. Mostly I agree with what he's saying right here.
To whether it's making music or building a legacy in general. And I don't think JID and J. Cole ever had that. Same thing with J. Cole and Jay-Z. I don't think they're too far removed in terms of generations, in terms of style, approach, everything. And JID even emphasized this in another interview, stating that he doesn't really...
But Cole listened to Jigga way more than JID listened to Cole. Like, it shows. Like, he did like 4 different freestyles on Dead Presidents by Jigga, like Cole did. Like, he did 4 different versions. He definitely looked up to Jigga and was very stoked by signing to one of his idols. I think Cole's biggest influences are Wayne, Nas, and Jay. So it's a lot different. It's a lot different in that regard. But I get what he's saying.
Listen to Cole's music that much.
I'm a spitter, and I didn't find anybody else that could like hold that type of thunder in their hand. And I just felt like Cole, a legend, you know what I'm saying? And it actually helped me get more acclimated with him, because before I was like, I don't know if it's bad to say, but I never really listened to Cole like that before I signed to him. But after meeting him and all of that, he's just been a solid dude.
And I think that's the biggest red flag, right? Like, if you're signing under an artist specifically because of, you know, their star power and the type of environment they foster with their label, but you don't align with their kind of sound and their music, I don't think you're going to understand their vision. They're not going to understand yours. There's going to be a misalignment. But regardless, when JID first signed to Dreamville, he was the obvious star of the label, right? Of artists who started dropping major label projects after like 2019, he's definitely in the top 5. And that's why everyone has always pinned him to be the leader of this generation, right?
That boy one-handed that bitch. Oh, he was a problem on the field.
He's 3 albums in. His contributions to the Dreamville album were incredible. All of his solo projects were incredible. But throughout that...
I know it's some nigga in Atlanta like, hey, boy, I'm so happy you decided to do rap. Boy, I couldn't guard you no more. Boy, I ain't gonna lie. Or he was a cornerback. I think he was either cornerback or DB. Boy, I couldn't handle you guarding me no more. Boy, I hated you, boy. I almost quit football because of you. I'm so happy you chose rap. I'm so happy. There's some nigga out there that said that, for sure.
When was the last time you saw him collaborate with J. Cole? Yes, he says he has an entire album's worth of song with Cole, but when was that recorded? Why hasn't it been released? Why does J. Cole never show up for JID or drop a verse on his projects, feature him on his own projects? It seemed like from the jump...
Cole don't really feature nobody on his projects, though. And like the Revenge of the Dreamers was all like he involved himself with the entire roster. And to your point in the video, he said he was very much in executive mode. It was more so about my artist, not me. He did the record with the Cole Bennett video. He did the shit on DiCaprio. He did Revenge of the Dreamers. That was Stick. Yeah, Stick with Kenny Mason. He's did a couple things with. I don't feel the same way in that regard. I don't.
The way they kind of describe things, yes, J. Cole was very, I guess you could say, lenient with the way that he let artists on his label execute their vision, but it never seemed like JID and Cole's creative identities and overall missions aligned. And I think that's why we haven't necessarily seen J. Cole be as active of a mentor in JID's career or just play a presence in the collaborative process as we have with many other rapper signed to rapper pairings, if that makes sense. Signing JID almost seems like, I don't want to say a business transaction, because I think Cole is definitely music first, and that's why he struggled with that writer's block when he was in too much of an executive mindset versus an artist mindset. But I do think it was J. Cole trying to fulfill this mission that he had forever of forming a collective of really talented MCs and just creating some dope music on some like Wu-Tang stuff, right? And I feel like with that type of creative freedom, it would foster an environment that was not very similar to the strict corporate vibes that Jay-Z inflicted early in Cole's career on Roc Nation. So maybe this was like an older Cole trying to fulfill what he wanted out of the game initially when he first came up and projecting that onto new artists.
It might have been a overcorrection from dealing with what he had to go through in his career, and then creating this type of business model for his artist. I think he overcorrected because he didn't want to. I don't think he really wanted his artist on his label to feel about him the way he felt about Jay. Because I think the relationship between his artist Cole would be even worse. I think there would be glaring signs of just dysfunction. I think every artist would be talking in the way that Ari Lennox was talking. That's how that would look. Now, I don't know if they're maintaining their silence out of respect. There has to be some sort of respect for what Cole did for them in order to not voice their grievances anytime a mic is in front of them, because they could if they wanted to. And no situation is perfect. Like, no label situation is perfect. But I think that he has done a lot more to support them than what people give Cole credit for, in my opinion.
And as a result, he signs a very talented rapper in JID, but creatively, they're not on the same wavelength. Again, I know I keep repeating this, but I think that's why you don't see them together much. I think that's why JID has been on this weird trajectory throughout his entire career where he's dropping phenomenal projects but taking way too much time off, why he's not kind of taking more advantage of his strong suits or releasing a lot of unreleased bangers that he probably has with Metro Boomin or J. Cole. It seems like he's sitting on a lot of untapped potential.
But who says it is the actual Dreamville label and not who they have a partnership with? I don't know if they're, and then they sold it. I don't know if they're still with Interscope. I think they're not. But I think JID is still on a major label in conjunction with Dreamville, if I'm not mistaken. Let me do my research. Hold on. Let me do my research. Wikipedia. Let me make sure I got that shit right. I think, yeah. Who's to say that Interscope is not responsible for the holdup? Does it have to only fall on the responsibility of Dreamville? I've seen, like, if you go through his Wikipedia, I've seen nothing but great moves to elevate him to the point where he's at. I think he's gotten the opportunities of a rising star. You know, the Imagine Dragons, I think he had a collaboration with Eminem. Yes, like, not every up and coming artist gets the opportunity to work with Eminem. It's a very select few. Yeah, I just think that people expect a lot from JID right now, which is his talent warrants that. So I get that. I get that completely. But I think that's an Interscope holdup, in me personally.
and a misguided vision thanks to signing to a rapper who he didn't listen to much, who's not very similar to him, who has his own struggles internally with how to balance or how to execute on being an executive versus being an artist. And also in JID's case, like, he's a very lyric-driven artist, right? Which already off the bat makes it hard to promote someone like that versus a more commercial act like a Gunna or Don Toliver or back in the day, a Drake, a Big Sean, a Wiz Khalifa. JID is in the exact same position J. Cole was in when he first came in the game, signed under Roc Nation. The only difference is I don't think JID has fully formed into his own the way Cole did once he had his Forest Hills Drive. I don't think JID has his Forest Hills Drive yet. And everyone thought it would be this new project, which is amazing, which could go on to have the longevity of a Forest Hills Drive. It might be too early to tell, but what was also weird is that it was 3 years in the making. This album has been done for a while. It's been constantly getting delayed. And another artist on the label was facing the same issues. Ari Lennox, another artist that was very hard for Dreamville to execute her vision and promote her on the level of, let's say, a SZA or a Summer Walker or her, Her, not her like as in Ari Lennox. She signed with Dreamville all the way back in December of 2015. She released her debut album, Shea Butter Baby, 4 years later in 2019. Similar to JID, she faced years of delays. But she did praise the label support, saying that Cole and Ebe gave me the space to be me. This new album is my soul. That was in 2019. By 2022, her second album drops, and she hints at frustrations with the promotion of it, saying I put my heart into this, but sometimes I feel like the label doesn't know how to push me right. By October of 2024, Lennox had publicly demanded release from Dreamville via Instagram, citing neglect.
She demanded a trade. Mid-year, mid-season, demanded a trade, man. She did that. This is what she did. I'm gonna tell you exactly what Ari Lennox did. This is exactly what she did in a very R&B way. I think this nigga smacks the licorice on the camera. This is one of the greatest videos in the modern era.
Fuck 300 ENT, y'all suck.
That's a fruit roller, bro.
Listen, y'all gotta let me out this damn contract. I don't want to be with y'all no fucking more. I told y'all, I give y'all this money back. I don't want to be with y'all label no more. Y'all suck.
A couple months later, she confirmed that after posting this on Instagram, she spoke to J. Cole in private and said, I was hurt, but I know J. Cole respects me as an artist. And by 2025, in April, Ari Lennox ended up parting ways with Dreamville amicably, but for some reason still staying with Interscope. She performed at that Dreamville festival, which will end up being the final Dreamville festival. We'll touch on that shortly.
He goes, that's Solange.
And she said, thank you for making my dreams a reality. And aside from Ari, who in the end from the Dreamville camp has actually come up and fulfilled anything close to what was maybe expected after the release of Revenge of the Dreamers 3 back in 2019?
I mean, Boss is doing a lot of interesting things with the Hicks, if you count him, but, you know, it's been otherwise quiet.
Right? Like, JID has gone on to do amazing things. Cause has released a couple projects, so has Boz, I believe, and Omen, but have any of them stick? Have any of them had real impact outside of just being, you know, signed to J. Cole? I think the only ones who have really done more than just be quote-unquote signed to J. Cole are Ari Lennox and JID. And those are the two that separated themselves the most from the Dreamville collective and went on to cultivate their own fan base and kind of do their own thing. And over the years, and as the promise of what we saw in 2019 from the Dreamville collective kind of seemed to dwindle, it's...
Performing in the rain is so hard for rappers. Every time the footage of niggas performing in the rain, this shit always cold.
Seemed like J. Cole started focusing more on himself and his career as an artist versus being an executive. The only Dreamville artist we saw him collaborate with very heavily has been Boss. And then the Kendrick Lamar beef happens, right? And this leads to some weird stuff between the entire Dreamville camp in general. So, firstly, I mean, J. Cole released a 7-minute drill. He's dissing Kendrick Lamar. Then he has the Dreamville Festival, which all the Dreamville artists are there to perform at. JID himself is performing there. Cole is performing there. None of them know that J. Cole had been planning on releasing this song or apologizing for it afterwards. And that was intentional, and I think that is smart because why tie your artists in to this whole mess that has nothing to do with them? But Wayno, who was doing interviews at the festival, and shout out to Wayno, he's an amazing creator right now, and he's been an amazing creator way back in the Everyday Struggle days. But he was doing interviews at the Dreamville Fest, and he said that a lot of these Dreamville guys, this was at the time again that J. Cole had just dropped 7-minute drill, and none of them knew he was about to apologize.
But I heard that Q was like, saw him. I heard Schoolboy Q saw him at Dreamville Fest and was like, you might want to stay out of this. Like, just go ahead. That's the rumor.
They were talking crazy like, yo, what has Kendrick really done? J. Cole craps on him. Way better artist, has accomplished way more. Kendrick has nothing on him. Basically talking crazy, right? Riding for Cole. But he's categorizing the entire Dreamville as saying this, as having this narrative.
Y'all Dreamville, man, y'all gas Cole up. Cause listen, I was having sideline conversations with a lot of the homies, and a lot of my Dreamville homies was basically saying that Kendrick that he's overrated. What has he done? And
I do think though, Cole was in the best rap shape due to his rap features and really like ironing his shit to where it can be a very interesting matchup if they kept it rap. But if the rumor is true that Schoolboy Q reached out to Cole and was like, "This is going past rap. You don't want to do this," I think that's why he checked out. I think that if it was like a friendly fade, like how it was supposed to be, I think Cole would have engaged. And you know, Dreamville is like right to gas, like, bro, you got him. I mean, if Dot is no hoe, like Dot is no joke, I expect my homies to lift me up during this time. Like, you know what, man, you got this, bro. Nigga can't do shit with you, boy. I'm like, you right. I'm about to, you know what I mean? Who am I expecting my close homies to be like, bro? He's going to wash you. Nah, bro. Nah, we are together as a unit. My soldiers are supposed to ride for me.
one thing to say, okay, Kendrick then says something, we gonna rap at him, but it's another thing for like the homies around, that's around Cole to be saying like, yeah, man, like he ain't never, or he ain't this, or don't nobody listen to that. And I'm like, yo, y'all dead serious?
Right away, many people assumed that it was JID who these comments were made about. Again, JID is kind of like, aside from J. Cole, the face of the label. He's the biggest artist, most talented one by far on the label. So when a rap beef kicks off, the most lyrical rapper on the label, people are going to turn to him and be like, yeah, he's the one that's ready for war, right? Well, wrong, because JID actually went on Twitter replying to some fans saying, I don't really kick it with the Dreamville guys like that. This is absolute cap. And this is very weird to me because it's one thing to not want to insert yourself in a war, but it's another when like these rumors are being circulated online.
Yeah, JID is more, I mean, if you count Earth Gang, I don't know if he counts Earth Gang in that, and like this, like them together as Spillage Village. I don't know if he counts them or if he just counts Boss, Omen, and like people really like. There's like an Atlanta division, and then there's like New York. Like it's just kind of just like, I think JID kicks him more with the Atlantics. He's more with like Kenny Mason. He's more with like Denzel Curry. Like he kind of kicks it with different niggas. Like, so I understand that. I don't think that was no shot for real.
And the way you choose to respond is by being like, I'm not even really attached to this whole collective. I don't hang out with them anymore like that. It just kind of creates a weird perception of what's really going on with J. Cole's label right now. It seems weird to me that JID was so quick to want to make sure the world knew that he was not trying to go against Kendrick in any capacity, right? Even if it meant exposing the fact that he's not really that locked in with his record label at this point and kind of making Cole look bad indirectly in the process. And this is kind of what I've been saying all along, right? In that it never seemed like JID was fully aligned with the mission that J. Cole had for his career and for Dreamville. And because of that, I think JID was in a home that he felt like he didn't belong in, right? And this year alone, yes, we hear him praise Cole, but we hear him praise Kendrick a lot more. Like in July of this year, he was saying that he needs a verse from Kendrick Lamar. He's emphasized this in multiple different interviews and Instagram lives.
Hell yeah, I need a collab. You f with that? Nigga need a Dot collab, bro.
And again, not to mention the fact that he had Kendrick in his top 5 without J. Cole. And of course, after Cole's apology in the beef, you get this, Port Antonio song where he's more so trying to make amends with Drake than he is with Kendrick. Then you get the weird comments from another Dreamville artist, the one who's definitely most closely associated with J. Cole in 2025, does the most collabs, always talking about J. Cole and speaking very highly of him, always moving around with J. Cole. That's Boss. And
but Boss also defended, because Ebro from Apple Music's been talking crazy about Drake. I mean, like, I've been talking crazy too, like half jokingly. Boss was like, you can't question Drake's pen at all. Like, Drake is like that. But naturally, he's going to ride for Cole. Like, so I don't have no problem with that, me personally.
Boss had replied to some comments Ebro had made about Drake just being, toxic to the culture and his fan base, not really being fans of hip-hop, but being more fans of Drake. And Boss had said, "My 2 cents, Ebro, Drake is among the most, if not the most, inclusive artists of our culture.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Sure. Pushing countless rappers to the forefront, dancehall artists, Afro beats, R&B, reggaeton, older artists, newer artists, etc. I don't get this culture narrative that's persisted since the battle. If it's a Canadian thing, I'd argue that Toronto is an hour flight away from New York City. I'd argue their culture and ethnic makeup is more akin to New York than pretty much any city in the States.
That's what I've heard as well. That's what I've heard.
And surely it's not his pen. He's arguably the greatest writer of a generation. So what is it?" And then he replies to himself saying, "I said he's arguably the greatest writer. Kendrick is a part of that, as is Cole." I don't know. It seems like he's clearly picking a side here, right? And the same side Cole seems to be aligned with, right? After Port Antonio saying, "Drake, you'll always be my guy," kind of making it seem like he lost a friend in Drake and trying to win him back on that song. Whereas JID, on the other end, isn't really, saying anything crazy about the beef, but emphasizing how much he wants to collab with Kendrick. So it's kind of a weird inconsistency in terms of thought process going on at Dreamville. And again, like I've been saying this entire video, right? I'm a broken record at this point. I don't think their mission, their values, their personality, anything was never aligned. J. Cole and JID, I don't think have ever been aligned creatively. And I think it makes it very hard for a rapper signed to another rapper to succeed and reach the milestones that the rapper he's signed to has already achieved when both rappers are not on the same kind of wavelength creatively. And this could be singers as well. It doesn't just have to be a rapper signed to a rapper. But in this case, I think that J. Cole ended up fumbling JID the way that Jay-Z fumbled J. Cole.
We can't. This video at best is foreshadowing. It hasn't happened yet. No news is broke out that they're splitting ways, parting ways. There's nothing to be said. Now, if it happens, maybe we go back to this video and like, okay, yeah, I see it. But as I'm watching this video at the time of this recording, August 2025, a lot of the points I disagree with in terms of their relationship. And I don't agree with the perspective that he's treating him the way Jay treated. Like, I don't think Cole is treating JID the way that Jay treated Cole. I disagree with that. And that's the premise of this video. And I don't agree. So I think that he's got 9 more minutes left. If you're intrigued, I've pretty much got the gist of the video. If you're intrigued, I'm not going to give you the whole video, and you can also have an opportunity to watch this video without my commentary. So there's about 10 minutes left of the video. If you want to check it on your own, I'll leave the link to his video and channel in the description down below. I'm going to get it out here. See you living as always. I'll be safe. Shwee!